Charles Bronson finally talks about James Garner. Charles Bronson was born Charles Dennis Bukinski on November 3, 1921 in Ehrenfeld, Pennsylvania, a small coal mining town that helped shape his tough character and strong work ethic for life. He was the 11th of 15 children born to Lithuanian immigrant parents who had run away from poverty in Eastern Europe. Looking for a better life in America, growing up in a household that struggled to have enough money, Bronson saw firsthand the harsh realities of being poor. His father, Walterus Bukinski, was a coal miner, and when headied, young Charles was forced to do hard work at an early age to help support the family. He began working in the mines as a teenager, earning only $1 a ton shoveling coal, which built not only his strong, powerful body, but also his tough, unshakable outlook on life that would later define how he acted on screen. During World War II, Bronson joined the United States Army Air Forces, serving as an aerial gunner in the 765 Flexible Gunnery Training Squadron. He flew 25 combat missions and was awarded the Purple Heart after being wounded in action. The discipline, endurance, and courage he showed in the military were the same traits he would later bring to his acting career. After coming back from the war, he used the GI Bill to study art and theater, discovering a passion that would transform his life, changing his last name to Bronson in nearly 1,950 seconds, partly to avoid any communist blacklisting because of his Eastern European surname. He began going after acting roles in Hollywood, though success was slow to come. Bronson's early career was marked by minor, often uncredited appearances in films such as You're in the Navy Now, 1951, and The People Against O'Hara, 1951. His chiseled features, intense gaze, and commanding presence made him a natural fit for roles in action and war films, but it wasn't until the mid-1950s that his career began to gain momentum. He played tough soldiers, outlaws, and men of few words, roles that suited his natural toughness. By the time he appeared in House of Wax 1953 alongside Vincent Price and in Veracruz 1954 with Gary Cooper and Burt Lancaster, his reputation as a reliable actor was growing. His breakout came with Machine Gun Kelly 1958, directed by Roger Corman, in which Bronson gave a powerful performance as a ruthless gangster, revealing both menace and vulnerability. In the 1960s, Bronson achieved international stardom thanks to his roles in classic ensemble films like Heath Magnificent Seven, 1960, where he played Bernardo O'Reilly, a kind-hearted gunslinger who fights for the poor, and The Great Escape, 1963, in which he played Danny, the Tunneking, a claustrophobic prisoner of war whose quiet determination and humanity made him one of the film's emotional encores. These performances elevated him from supporting actor to a global star. In Europe, particularly in France and Italy, Bronson was celebrated as a leading man of the working class, a symbol of masculine resilience and justice. His performance in Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West, 1968, cemented his legacy as the mysterious harmonica-playing gunman seeking revenge. Bronson delivered a performance of haunting silence and controlled fury that became one of the most memorable in Western film history. The 1970 Seconds brought Bronson the superstardom that had escaped him in his earlier years. He became one of the top box office draws in the world with films like The Mechanic 1972, The Velocipapers 1972, and Hard Times 1975. However, it was his role in Death Wish 1974 that defined his career and turned him into a cultural phenomenon. As Paul Kersey, a New York architect, becomes a vigilante after his wife is murdered and his daughter assaulted, Bronson captured the public's imagination during a period of rising crime and social unrest. His tough portrayal of a man pushed beyond his limits resonated deeply with audiences worldwide and spawned several sequels, each exploring the blurred lines between justice and vengeance. Though critics were divided, the Death Wish series made Bronson a global icon of cinematic retribution off-screen. Charles Bronson was known to be intensely private, often described as reserved, introspective, and deeply loyal to those he loved. He married 3 times, most famously to British actress Jill Ireland, with whom he shared a powerful and enduring partnership. The two starred together in several films, including Rider on the Rain, 1970, and The Velocipapers, 1972, becoming one of Hollywood's most admired couples. When Ireland was diagnosed with breast cancer, Bronson stood by her side through her long battle until her death in 1990. Those who knew him personally spoke of his quiet devotion, his sense of humor that contrasted with his on-screen severity, and his deep love for his family, and the simple pleasures of life such as painting, carpentry, and spending time at his Malibu ranch. As Bronson aged, he continued to act in both 1982 and early 1990s, maintaining his rugged screen persona in films like 10 to Midnight, 1983, The Evil That Mendo, 1984, and Death Wish 5, The Face-Off Death, 1994. Although his later movies often received mixed reviews, audiences remained loyal to the actor who embodied integrity and justice in an often chaotic world. Bronson officially retired from acting in the late 1990s as his health began to decline. He suffered from Alzheimer's disease in his final years and passed away on August 30, 2003 at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles at the age of 81. Throughout his life, Charles Bronson was known for being a man of few words, a rugged, tough figure who let his actions speak louder than anything he might say. He was famously private, not one to gossip or get involved in Hollywood feuds. But when the topic of fellow actor James Garner came up late in his life, Bronson surprised everyone, definitely breaking his silence. His words, though brief, carried the weight of decades of observation and personal experience in the unforgiving world of film industry. James Garner was a real actor, Bronson once said quietly. He didn't have to play tough. He just was himself. And that's a rare thing in this business. For a man like Bronson, that kind of compliment meant a great deal. Coming from someone who built a career on grit, authenticity, and silent power, his admiration for Garner revealed the kind of respect that could only come from one professional to another. Bronson explained that in an industry filled with egos and phonies, Garner had something most didn't: sincerity. There's a lot of pretending in Hollywood, Bronson remarked. James didn't pretend. You believed him, whether he was playing a soldier, a gambler, or just a man trying to do the right thing. He made it real. Bronson and Garner both came from similar backgrounds of hard work and perseverance. Garner, a decorated Korean War veteran who had overcome poverty and pain, shared that same no-nonsense approach to life that Bronson admired. He was a soldier before he was an actor, Bronson said. That never left him. He carried himself like a man who'd seen the world, not just read about it. The mutual understanding between two men who had faced real hardship, Garner in the military, Bronson in the coal mines of Pennsylvania, created a quiet but enduring respect between them, even though they were never known to be close friends. Their careers occasionally crossed paths in tone, if not directly in collaboration. Both actors specialized in portraying grudged, morally grounded characters who lived by their own rules. Garner's charm was more easygoing and humorous, while Bronson's strength came from silence and intensity. We were different kinds of tough, Bronson explained. Garner had that smile, that easy confidence. I didn't have that. I was all stone and smoke, but I respected him because he could play it honest and he never had to show off. Bronson also talked about the idea that Hollywood often underestimated him because of his television fame. People thought because he came from TV, he wasn't serious. Bronson said, that's nonsense. Garner could hold his own with anyone on a movie set. He was natural, and that's something you can't fake. He went on to express admiration for Garner's ability to blend humor and heroism, particularly in the Rockford Files and films like The Great Escape, a project they both shared, though in different roles and scenes. On The Great Escape, everyone was trying to stand out. Garner didn't try. He just was, and that's why you noticed him. Bronson's rare commentary on Garner also hinted at a sense of kinship that went beyond Hollywood competition. Both men were products of an older generation of actors, self-made, blue-collar, and unpretentious. He wasn't a Hollywood guy, Bronson reflected. He didn't care about the parties or the headlines. He just committed work, did the job, and went home. Like that. Coming from Bronson, who was notoriously averse to the superficial side of fame. This was the highest form of praise. When asked if there was ever rivalry between them, Bronson dismissed the idea outright. No rivalry, he said. We were too different to compete. I always figured the audience could tell who was real, and Garner, he was real. He paused before adding a line that summed up his feelings more than any long speech could. If there were more James Garners in this town, maybe it'd be a better place. By the time Bronson made these remarks, both men were already legendary. Symbols of an era when masculinity in Hollywood didn't come from arrogance or artifice, but from authenticity and presence. Bronson's tribute to Garner, understated yet deeply respectful, reflected his own values, loyalty, honesty, and toughness of spirit. Garner didn't have to prove anything. He'd been through life. He'd earned his scars. You can't act that. You live it. In the end, Bronson's comments on James Garner serve as a rare and moving glimpse into how one icon viewed another. It wasn't about rivalry or fame, but about mutual recognition of the kind of strength that comes from integrity and experience. Two different kinds of men, two different styles, yet both united by a shared understanding of what it truly meant to be real in an industry built on illusion. He was the kind of man he respected, Bronson concluded, and that's saying something. Charles Bronson's long and remarkable life came to an end on August 30th, 2003 when he passed away at the age of 81 at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, California. The legendary actor, known for his intensity and rugged screen presence, had endured a long period of declining health in the years leading up to his death. His passing marked the close of an era for Hollywood tough guys, as Bronson had been one of the last true embodiment of the silent, hard-edged masculinity that had unsedimentated American cinema. He had lived a full life from the poor coal mines of Pennsylvania to the heights of international stardom, and his death left behind not just a vast film legacy, but a lasting impact on audiences and fellow actors alike who admired his strength, humility, and perseverance. Although various media outlets initially said pneumonia and Alzheimer's disease were the causes of Bronson's death, the official record tells a more complex medical story. Interestingly, neither pneumonia nor Alzheimer's disease was listed on his official death certificate. Instead, the document said respiratory failure as the primary cause of death, a condition that occurs when the lungs can no longer properly exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide, often the final chapter in a long struggle with chronic illness. The certificate also identified metastatic lung cancer as a significant underlying cause. This diagnosis indicates that the cancer had spread beyond the lungs to other parts of the body, a progression that is both painful and difficult to treat, particularly in someone of advanced stage, making his battle with cancer worse. Bronson also suffered from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, a severe and irreversible condition commonly linked to long-term smoking and exposure to airborne irritants. Given that Bronson had been a heavy smoker for much of his adult life, this diagnosis came as little surprise. COPD causes a gradual deterioration of lung function, leaving the sufferer breathless and fatigued. A cruel fate for a man whose cinematic persona was defined by vitality, endurance, and physical toughness. The disease would have significantly diminished his quality of life in his later years, confining him to limited activity and dependence on medical support. In addition to these respiratory ailments, Bronson's death certificate cited congestive cardiomyopathy, a serious heart condition in which the heart's ability to pump blood is impaired. This too likely contributed to his respiratory failure, as the lungs and heart are closely connected in the body's circulatory system. Together, these overlapping illnesses, lung cancer, COPD, and cardiomyopathy create a perfect storm of failing organs, ultimately overwhelming even Bronson's legendary resilience. Despite the best efforts of his doctors, his body could no longer withstand the burden of these combined diseases. After his passing, Bronson's remains were buried at Brownsville Cemetery in West Windsor, Vermont, a quiet and secluded place that reflected the actor's lifelong preference for privacy and simplicity. The rural Vermont countryside had long been a cherished refuge for him and his family. Far removed from the glitz of Hollywood, it was there that he had spent many peaceful years with his beloved wife, Jill Ireland, and later with his children. His burial in that serene landscape was fitting, a final retreat to the quiet natural world he had always valued more than fame. Visitors to the small cemetery often note the modesty of his grave site, a humble marker for a man who never sought ostentation in life or in death.